Refrigeration is one of those modern conveniences that we all often take for granted. But what happens when you don't have access to electricity or solar power? Whether you're living off grid, preparing for a survival situation, or just looking for sustainable alternatives, natural refrigeration methods can make a huge difference in your ability to stockpile food long term. So we're going to look at several creative and practical ways to keep your food cool without relying on traditional power sources. Zier pots or clay pot coolers. Zier pots are an ancient yet ingenious way to use evaporation to cool your food. They've been in use in some part of the world since their invention in ancient Greece 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. This method involves placing a smaller clay pot inside a larger one, with a layer of wet sand in between. As the water in the sand evaporates, it pulls heat away from the inner pot, keeping the contents cool. The best climates for this? Zier pots work best in hot and dry climates like the desert Southwest, where evaporation happens quickly. Challenges? In humid areas like the Southeast, evaporation is slower, which reduces their cooling effectiveness. And how to make it? All you need are 2 unglazed clay pots, some sand, and water. Place the smaller pot inside the larger one. Fill the gap between them with wet sand and cover it with a damp cloth. Keep it in a shaded, breezy spot for best results. Root cellars. Root cellars are a time-tested way to store food underground where it's naturally cooler. These structures maintain consistent temperatures year-round thanks to the insulating properties of the soil. Root cellars work well in areas with lower water tables and good drainage. In the humid Southeast, proper ventilation is crucial to avoid mold and excess moisture. If your property has a high water table, a traditional root cellar may flood. However, you could do a raised or partially buried version that can still work. A modern twist. If a full-scale root cellar isn't feasible, consider burying small waterproof containers like barrels or trash cans as mini root cellars. Sinking metal trash cans into the ground. If you live in a region with a high water table like the Southeast or Hawaii, you can turn the challenge of moisture into an advantage. By sinking a metal trash can into the ground, you can take advantage of the Earth's naturally cooler temperatures. How it works. The ground temperature, a few feet below the surface, is consistently cooler than above ground air temperatures. If the trash can is partially in contact with groundwater, it'll stay even cooler. Dig a hole deep enough to fit the trash can with only the lid exposed. Add gravel at the bottom for drainage and pack soil tightly around the can. Use a tight-fitting lid to keep moisture and pests out. Some tips for success. Line the inside with straw or sawdust to help insulate the contents and reduce condensation. For added longevity, choose galvanized or rust-resistant metal cans, and you can obviously make several of these depending on how much you need to store. Geothermal cooling tubes. Geothermal cooling uses the Earth's stable underground temperatures to chill the air. This method involves burying pipes underground and allowing cool air to flow into a storage space or a living area. Air circulates through pipes buried several feet underground, cooling as it comes into contact with the cooler soil. While this is often used for cooling homes, this method can be adapted for food storage. Geothermal cooling is effective in most climates, but requires careful design to manage humidity in wetter areas like the Southeast. Installation does require digging and careful planning, making this a more labor-intensive option. Ice houses and ice caves. In colder climates or regions with access to natural ice houses were a traditional method of refrigeration. Ice was harvested during the winter and stored in insulated underground spaces to last all through the summer. How it works? Blocks of ice are insulated with materials like sawdust or straw to slow the melting. While harvesting ice isn't practical for everyone, you can create a similar effect by using large ice blocks in an insulated, shaded storage area. The best climates for this, it works best in areas with cold winters where ice can be naturally harvested. Natural evaporative cooling cabinets. An evaporative cooling cabinet is another ingenious option for hot, dry climates. These cabinets are covered in a material like burlap, which is kept wet. As the water evaporates, it cools the interior. Like Zier pots, these are most effective in arid regions like the Southwest. How do you build it? You just use a wooden or metal frame and you cover it with burlap or other porous material. Keep the fabric damp and ensure good airflow around the cabinet for the cooling process to work. This is great for short-term cooling of vegetables and fruits. Comparing effectiveness by climate. In the Southwest, where it's hot and dry, evaporative cooling methods like the Zier pots and cooling cabinets are highly effective. In the Southeast and Hawaii, ground-based methods like the trash cans or raised root cellars are better suited because the high humidity reduces the efficiency of evaporative cooling. Cold climates. Ice houses, caves, and even root cellars shine in regions with long cold winters. Natural refrigeration offers creative, sustainable ways to keep food cool without relying on electricity. By understanding your climate and selecting the right method, you can enjoy reliable refrigeration even in off-grid or emergency situations. Whether you're experimenting with a clay pot cooler, digging a backyard root cellar, or sinking a trash can into the ground, these techniques connect us to age-old solutions that remain surprisingly effective today. So determine which method would be most effective for your climate. And by spring, you may have a new, off-grid, non-electric food storage option.